The first time I noticed her, she wasn't trying to be noticed. She was sitting by the window of the cafe, one hand circling the rim of her coffee cup, lost in thought. Her hair caught the late afternoon light. Not golden, not brown, something in between, like a secret that didn't need explaining. I told myself I wasn't staring. But she looked up once, and that was enough to make me forget what I'd come there for. She had that stillness, the kind that made everything else around her seem too loud, too rushed. I'd seen her there before, always alone, always reading something. And that day, I sat one table closer than I usually did. "Do you always sit there?" I asked, half smiling, pretending to sound casual. Her eyes flicked toward me, blue-gray, unreadable. "Only when I need to think." She said it like she'd already thought too much. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, like we were both standing at the edge of something we didn't understand yet. I noticed the fine lines around her mouth when she smiled, just barely. They weren't flaws. They were proof of laughter, of years, of something real. When she spoke again, her voice was low, textured, like she'd forgotten how soft she could sound. "You're young to spend your afternoons watching strangers." I almost laughed. Maybe I'm just learning from the right ones. She tilted her head, assessing, almost amused. Then she looked away again, the way people do when they don't want you to see how much they're thinking. I learned her name a week later. Elena. She said it like she didn't expect it to matter. We started talking about small things, books, weather, how the coffee was always too bitter here. But our pauses said more than the words ever did. She never asked about my life, not really. I think she already saw what she needed to. When she laughed, really laughed, she covered her mouth with her hand, as if joy was something she wasn't supposed to show anymore. And I kept finding reason to make her laugh again. Some evenings, I'd stay until the cafe closed, just to walk with her to her car. We never called it anything, friendship, attraction. It was just something we both kept returning to. One night, it rained. She waited under the awning, umbrella half open, and I remember the smell of rain in her hair when she leaned close to hand me hers. Our fingers brushed, nothing intentional, but everything changed in that second. Her hand lingered, just a moment too long. "You should go," she murmured, not meeting my eyes. "Do you want me to?" Her breath hitched, barely audible. "That's not the same question." The wind picked up, the kind that carries cold and unsaid things. I wanted to tell her how every time she looked away, I felt something pull tighter inside me. But the words stuck somewhere behind my ribs. She turned to leave, the sound of her heels sharp against the wet pavement. Then she paused, halfway to her car, and said quietly, almost to herself, "Why do you stay?" I didn't think. I just said it, the only truth that made sense in that moment. "Because I feel alive with you." Her hand froze on the car door. She didn't turn around. For a long second, the rain was the only sound between us, steady, insistent, almost cruel in how it refused to fill the silence. Then a voice called from behind me, the barista locking up, jingling keys. I looked back for a heartbeat, and when I turned again, Elena's car door had closed. The headlights flared once, then disappeared into the night. And I was still standing there, soaked, smiling, and already missing her. The next time I saw Elena, she wasn't in the cafe. She was outside, by the edge of the park across the street, standing beneath a sycamore tree, phone pressed loosely to her ear. The late sunlight caught the edges of her hair, and for a moment, it looked like the world had softened just for her. I crossed the street without thinking. When she noticed me, she hesitated, a blink too long. Before she smiled. "You again," she said, not unkindly. Her voice had that same tired warmth, as if she'd stopped expecting surprises a long time ago. "Me again," I said. "Coffee didn't feel right without you there." That made her laugh quietly, but it faded fast. Her phone screen still glowed in her hand. A call she hadn't ended yet. A man's voice echoed faintly through it, angry, or maybe just disappointed. She pressed the button and slipped the phone into her bag. "Ex-husband," she said before I could ask. "He thinks silence is a form of control." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. We walked instead, the kind of walk where both people pretend it's casual, but every step feels like a secret. She told me she'd been divorced 5 years. "Not tragic," she said. "Just quiet. We stopped being the people we promised to be." I told her I'd never been in love long enough to break anything. "You're lucky," she said. "Or maybe you just haven't risked enough." Her words lingered. So did her eyes. We sat on a park bench as the sky went soft and blue-gray. She leaned back, closed her eyes for a moment, and exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that feels like letting go. Her shoulder brushed mine. Not much, just enough to make me forget the rest of the world. I tried not to stare, but I noticed everything. The faint freckle near her collarbone, the tiny scar on her wrist, the way her hand relaxed on the bench between us. My pulse picked up every time she shifted closer. She opened her eyes again. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said, not smiling this time. "How am I looking? Like you don't see the years between us." "I do," I said. "I just don't care." Something flickered across her face. Not anger, not approval. Maybe recognition. She turned away, pretending to watch the trees. The wind moved her hair across her face, and before I could think, I reached to brush it back. My fingers grazed her temple, soft, careful. Her breath caught. "Don't," she whispered. But she didn't move. We stayed like that, still, the world folding into a single heartbeat. Then she gently took my wrist, her thumb pressing against my pulse, feeling what she already knew. "You make things dangerous," she said. "Or maybe honest." Her hand lingered, then released mine with deliberate care. She stood, smoothing her coat, eyes still on me. "You should go," she said again. Same words as before, but her voice had softened. I stayed seated, watching as she walked away through the fading light. She didn't look back this time. But when she passed under the street lamp, I saw her hand brush her wrist, the same spot where mine had been, and I knew she still felt it. It was supposed to be nothing. Just another afternoon, another conversation that lingered too long. Elena had agreed to meet me at the art gallery downtown. Neutral ground, she'd said, smiling like she didn't mean it. The place was quiet. White walls and soft footsteps, the air humming faintly with low music and unspoken things. She wore a dark green coat that made her eyes look sharper, her movements slower. I felt her before I saw her, that subtle shift in the room when she was near. "You're late," she said when I approached, her lips curving just enough to make it not a reprimand. "You're early," I replied. We stood close enough that her perfume, faint, floral, familiar, filled the small distance between us. She looked at the painting in front of us, a woman standing alone in a field, wind tearing at her dress. "She looks free," I said. "Or lost," Elena murmured. "Depends who's watching." Her words hung between us. My hand brushed against hers. Accidental, maybe. She didn't move away. Half an hour passed in a rhythm of quiet. Her voice low as she described the colors, my gaze tracing her reflection in the glass instead of the art. The tension felt like breathing underwater. Heavy, necessary, dangerous. When she turned to say something, I stepped closer without meaning to. Our faces were too near now, the air thick with the kind of silence that trembles. "Elena." She didn't let me finish. "Don't." Her voice cracked on the word, almost breaking it. But she didn't step back. Then a voice, sharp, surprised, echoed down the hall. "Elena." She froze. A woman, maybe in her 30s, appeared at the corner, short hair, bright scarf, recognition in her eyes. "Elena, I thought that was you." Elena's hand slipped away from mine like it had never been there. "Claire," she said too quickly, too brightly. "I didn't know you still came here." They hugged, the kind of hug you give when you're buying time. Claire's eyes flicked toward me. "And who's this?" "Just a friend," Elena said. The words landed hard. "Just a friend." Claire smiled politely, said something about dinner plans, and left. Her perfume lingered long after. The silence she left behind was worse than any noise. "You don't have to explain," I said quietly. Elena exhaled, a sound halfway between a sigh and regret. "Yes, I do." She turned to face me, eyes sharp now. "This can't look like what it feels like." "What does it feel like?" Her mouth parted, then closed. "Wrong and right, both at once." She looked away, hands trembling slightly as she reached for her bag. But I caught her wrist, gentle, not forceful. She didn't resist. The air pulsed between us, heartbeat, breath, shared silence. Her gaze fell to my mouth, just for a second. "Don't," she whispered again, softer this time, as if she wanted me to ignore her. I almost did. But she turned her head, the moment breaking like glass. Her hand was still in mine, though, fingers tightening before she finally let go. We stood too close to walk away, too careful to stay. And in that fragile, trembling stillness, neither of us said goodbye. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of day that felt too ordinary for what it would become. Elena had texted me for the first time. "Are you around?" No punctuation, no explanation. Just that. We met at her apartment, something she'd never offered before. She opened the door barefoot, hair loosely tied, sleeves rolled halfway up. The room smelled faintly of citrus and rain, as if she'd just cleaned, or maybe just needed to start over. "I shouldn't have called you," she said before I could speak. "But you did." Her lips twitched, half a smile, half defeat. "Come in." The place was quiet, too quiet. A mug sat on the counter, lipstick smudged on the rim. A book lay open on the couch, unread. She poured wine into 2 glasses, her hands steady, her eyes not. "It's been a week," she said. "Since the gallery. I keep thinking about that moment." "So do I said. She set the bottle down harder than she meant to. "Don't say that." "Why?" "Because I already feel it," she said, voice low. "And I shouldn't." I didn't answer. The silence filled in for me. We sat side by side on the couch, the space between us shrinking without permission. She reached to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, and I couldn't help it. I leaned forward, fingers brushing her wrist. "Elena," I whispered, "you don't have to keep pretending this doesn't. Stop." Her voice cracked, soft, but final. Her eyes shimmered, not from tears, but from the weight of holding everything in. "I'm twice your age," she said. "People talk. They judge. They'll call it something it isn't." "What is it then?" I asked. She hesitated. Something I didn't expect to need again. The words broke something open in both of us. She leaned back, breathing shallow. I could see her pulse in her neck, the way her chest rose unevenly. When I reached out, just to touch her hand, she didn't move away. Her skin was warm, softer than I remembered. She looked down at our joined hands like she was memorizing something she'd lose later. "I've spent years keeping distance," she whispered. "From men who wanted to fix me. From boys who wanted to be saved. But you—" She stopped, shook her head. "You just see me." I leaned closer. "Then let me." Her breath caught. She turned her face toward mine, close enough that I felt it, her breath mingling with mine, the faint scent of wine between us. The world stilled. Her hand came up, fingers brushing the back of my neck. "You have no idea what this would cost me," she said, voice trembling. "I don't care," I murmured. She exhaled, slow, surrendering. The air between us burned, magnetic. I could see her eyes darken, pupils wide, her lips parting just slightly. And then the sound, a phone vibrating on the table. Her body jolted. The spell broke. She looked at the screen, face draining. "It's him," she whispered, the ex-husband's name glowing like a warning. I didn't move. Neither did she. The phone kept ringing, the sound sharp, merciless, and in the small space between us, everything we almost became was still hanging in the air. One breath, one heartbeat, one whisper away. She was there, sitting in the far corner, coffee untouched, her fingers wrapped too tightly around the cup. When she saw me, something flickered. Relief, then fear, then something she quickly buried. "Elena," I said, breathless from running, from not knowing. "Talk to me. You shouldn't have come." "Then why didn't you just say goodbye?" Her jaw tightened. "Because I didn't know how." The words landed heavy. But there was more, something behind her eyes, something breaking. I sat down. "What happened?" She looked down at her hands. "He knows." It took a second to register. "Your ex?" She nodded. "He came by last night. I don't know how, but he knows about you. About us." My stomach dropped. "Did you tell him?" Her eyes shot up, sharp and wounded. "You think I wanted this?" "I just don't," she said, voice trembling. "You don't understand what he's capable of. He's not violent, not that way. But he knows where to cut. What to say. Who to tell." The cafe suddenly felt too small, too bright. I glanced toward the window. People walking by, oblivious. "Elena," I whispered, "whatever he said, whatever he thinks." "He called my daughter." She cut in, her voice barely audible. "Told her I was seeing someone young enough to be her brother." The air left my lungs. "You have a daughter?" "I told you I'd made mistakes," she said quietly. "I didn't tell you all of them." For a long time, we didn't speak. Just the hum of the espresso machine, the clink of a spoon. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were glassy, defeated. "You make me feel alive, yes. But now you're part of the mess I tried so hard to leave behind." She stood abruptly. The motion sent her chair scraping against the floor, Too loud, too final. I reached for her hand. You think you ruined something? You didn't. You made me see something. Her breath hitched. For the first time, she didn't pull away. She just stood there, trembling, our fingers barely touching. I've built my life on distance, she said, voice shaking. You're the first person who made me forget I wanted it. Then stop remembering, I whispered. She closed her eyes. Her face was inches from mine, the scent of her skin flooding the small space between us. Faint lavender, fear, want. Her hand brushed against my chest as if testing whether I was real. For a moment, she leaned in, just enough for her breath to touch my lips. Then she stopped, eyes opening, searching mine. I can't lose her, she whispered. Not again. You won't, I said. But if you walk away now, you'll lose you. The words hung there, fragile, dangerous. She stepped back, slow, deliberate, but her fingers trailed down my arm as she did, like she couldn't quite let go. When she finally turned, I saw her reflection in the glass door, her hand pressed against it, trembling. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Meet me tomorrow, somewhere no one knows us." She chose the old coastal inn, the kind of place where nobody asked questions and the ocean drowned every sound. When I arrived, she was already there, standing by the window, COA. Coat draped over a chair, hair undone by the salt air. The late afternoon light painted her in gold and shadow. For a moment, I just stood in the doorway, unsure if crossing that space would change everything or finally make sense of it. You came, she said softly, not turning. You asked me to. Her reflection in the glass looked tired, beautiful, resigned. I didn't think you would. I stepped closer, the floor creaking beneath me. You knew I would. The room smelled of rain-soaked wood and sea breeze. She reached for a glass of water, her hand shaking slightly. After yesterday, she said, I thought about ending it. Ending what? She faced me now. Whatever this is. Whatever we keep pretending it isn't. Her eyes searched mine, sharp but trembling. I saw the wall she'd built, and the crack running through it. I took another step, close enough to see her breath falter. Then stop pretending, I said. She let out a shaky laugh. You make it sound simple. It is. No, she whispered. It's terrifying. The silence between us was alive, pulsing, unsteady. I reached out, fingers brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. Her eyes fluttered closed, not from shyness but surrender. Elena, I said quietly, you don't have to protect me from this. She opened her eyes, and I saw it. Everything she'd been holding back. The fear, the hunger, the guilt tangled together. I've spent years being careful, she said. And then you walked in, and I forgot how. Then remember this instead. I took her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Her palm fit against mine like a confession she'd been waiting to give. She looked down at our hands, then back up. This will change everything. I know. Her breath trembled as I stepped closer. Her chest brushed against mine. The smallest contact, enough to undo weeks of restraint. She whispered, say something. I'm here. That was all. That was enough. She closed the space between us, not with a kiss yet, but with a touch that felt louder. Her forehead rested against mine, both of us breathing the same air, eyes closed, hearts unsteady. The moment stretched, fragile, infinite, until she finally whispered, if we do this, I can't go back. Then don't, I said. Her hand slid up my neck, thumb tracing my jaw. Her voice was barely sound now. You don't understand what you're choosing. I do. And then, silence. The kind that comes just before the world shifts. She leaned in, breath brushing my lips. Not a kiss yet, but the promise of one. The sound of the ocean filled the room, waves against glass, steady and relentless, as if marking the moment we both stopped running from it. Morning came slowly, pale light spilling across the wooden floor, the sound of the ocean breathing against the windows. Elena sat at the edge of the bed, legs drawn close, watching the world wake up. Her hair was a soft mess, her shoulders bare in the quiet. She didn't speak at first, neither did I. The kind of silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was full, steady, like the calm after a storm that almost destroyed and somehow rebuilt. When she finally turned, her expression was different. Not guarded, not uncertain, just real. I didn't think I could do this, she said. I moved closer, sitting beside her. Do what? Let someone see me again. Her voice was low, raw around the edges. Not the version people expect. Just me. Tired, scared, still figuring things out. I smiled faintly. That's the only version I ever wanted. She looked down at our hands. Hers smaller, elegant, lines of age and life that I found beautiful. She ran her thumb over my fingers like she was memorizing them. I was afraid of what people would think, she said. That it would look wrong, that I'd look foolish. And now, she exhaled, a soft laugh escaping. Now I think they don't get to know what this feels like. Her hand slid into mine fully this time, fingers intertwining, warm and certain. The sound of the ocean outside filled the pauses between our breaths. We left the inn hours later, walking along the empty beach. The wind carried the scent of salt and something almost like peace. She walked barefoot, shoes dangling from one hand, sunlight catching the silver in her hair. Do you regret it? I asked. She stopped walking. Do you? I shook my head. Not for a second. She smiled then, small, quiet, real. Then I guess that's our answer. She stepped closer, close enough for her coat to brush my arm. The air between us had changed, still electric, but softer now, grounded. She rested her forehead against my chest, and I felt her smile against my shirt. You make me feel like I have time again, she whispered. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her there. We do. Maybe not the kind people approve of, but it's ours. She laughed, the kind of laugh that sounded like something healing. When she pulled back, her eyes were lighter, the worry lines around them softened. She reached up, fingers brushing my cheek before pressing a kiss to my forehead. It wasn't dramatic or rushed or forbidden anymore. It was simply right. The ocean kept moving, the world went on, and we stayed there. Two people who had spent too long running from what made them feel alive. Later, as the sun dipped low, she took my hand again and said, "Let them talk. We've already lived through worse." And for the first time, she didn't look away. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?